There's LaTanya. I call this City of Surprise regular council meeting to order. May we have roll call, please?
Mayor Truitt,
Here.
Vice Mayor Villanueva,
Here.
Council Member Longabaugh,
Here.
Council Member Alton,
Here.
Council Member Williams,
Here.
Council Member Johnson, and Council Member Hall.
Here.
Thank you very much. Would you all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Before we go to the current events and report by Mayor and Council, I would like to take special note of our new city manager and welcome him aboard, Mr. Randy Oliver. Welcome, sir. We're very privileged to have you, and we look forward to a long and productive future. Yes, sir. We'll start with Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, that was my first thing to say too. Welcome, Randy. I've had the opportunity to speak with him, and I love the attitude, very positive and let's go attitude. So thank you and welcome aboard. Next, I'd like to thank the mayor for allowing me to go to the changing of command at Luke Air Force Base, where they pass it from one general to the next. They unveiled the plane, his plane that he flies in, and it had a couple little detailed and special little marks on it, I guess, so they can tell not to shoot him down, I guess. But anyway, it was an honor. It only happens every 2 years, and it was honor. And thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it. Next, the surprise progress again. Ken Lynch, great job. It's wonderful. If you want to know what's happened just in the first half of the year, it lists here what's been accomplished so far, and the year's just half over. So if you want to look and see, it's a wonderful synopsis of what we've done and where we're going. So thank you, Ken. Next, 4th of July, I didn't go over. I spend it traditionally. I'm very close to the stadium, and I can just sit in my front yard with my family and friends, and we watch them, and it's just like having a front row seat. So that's been our tradition, and Mark and his department have done a wonderful job. I understand we got a little bit emails that people were discouraged that it started a little bit later, but from what I understand, weather is an issue when you're firing off explosives in the air. So I want to mention that to our citizens that were wondering why they didn't start on time. So we're more concerned with with everybody's safety than watching fireworks. But I'm glad we got it done, and thank you, Mark, and your department. Lastly, I'd like to say congratulations to Councilmember Alton. He is smoke-free now for a month, and so if he's if you notice, all his pens are chewed on at the end, so that's why. But congratulations, Mr. Alton, and I'll keep you on the right track, as we all will. So thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir. Councilman Longabaugh.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll have a couple of things to talk about tonight. The first thing I'd like to mention is I got a report from the police department, which is called the Arizona Crime Clock. And what it does is compare state of Arizona crime statistics with the city of Surprise's crime statistics. And I'll just cite two of them as examples. I'm sure they're available. The entire report would be available from the department. But one violent crime happens in the state of Arizona every 17 minutes and 52 seconds. However, here in the city of Surprise, one happens every 2 days and 10 hours. One major crime happens in the state of Arizona every minute and 43 seconds, yet here in Surprise it happens every 3 hours and 12 minutes. As I have emphasized many times, we have one of the safest cities, not only in Arizona, but I believe here in the nation. Secondly, I'd like to talk about something that is near and dear to my heart. On Tuesday, I asked the fire department representative, Linda Niles, who is the public education coordinator, to come out and inspect my home for fire safety. I figure I can't be a hypocrite. I keep telling everybody to be safe, and yet I wasn't sure how safe my own home is. She spent over 2.5 hours total, because she had to come back today because we didn't have the right batteries, for our smoke alarms, and she had to install them today. But in 2.5 hours, she went through my house and found things that I wouldn't have had any idea were fire safety issues. And I did graduate. I got a B minus, but I passed. And as I told the chief, I got a door block that I'm not supposed to block. It's an exit door, and so I'm going to have to work on that. But if any of you out in the community or here in the audience believe your home ought to be looked into or looked at by the fire department, Linda's willing to come out and do it. This does not cost you any money. Her number is 222-5128. I would highly recommend it for anybody who has any issues with fire safety. Obviously, I'm not climbing out any windows. I want to make sure that my house is perfectly safe. Councilman Johnson already talked about the 4th of July, and I had the honor to both attend the Lake Pleasant fireworks and dinner on July 3rd, as well as our stadium. And it did get a little dusty and windy, Joe, so you should have invited me over. We didn't wait until the late hour. We went home and watched it from the bridge in Sun City Grand. But it was a wonderful experience to see the kids. And Mr. Alton and the vice mayor were both there. We gave some sports youngsters some participation medals for them being in the team, and it was a wonderful event to see how many of our city folks get out to the stadium on the 4th of July. I was also honored to be invited and attend the Sun City Grand's quarterly Cam Jam or monthly Cam Jam along with Councilman Alton. We had a good meeting with the community, and I think we were able to explain a few things and answer a few things that the community wanted to know. And the last thing I want to mention is I got this wonderful little card. I guess this is a common thing for city staff, but I didn't know about it. Today happens to be my 1-year anniversary of being on council. I appreciate and enjoyed the experience, and I am honored to represent District 1 in the City of Surprise. And I thank all of you for your support and your good wishes and your emails that are asking me to work for you. I don't mind doing that. I think that's part of the job. And I look forward to the next 1.5 years to finish my term at the end of next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Alton.
Thank you, Mayor. I, too, was at the 4th of July fireworks. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching the kids. I almost was tempted to get into the splash, the things, the blow up where you get water and, but the kids were having too much fun. They wouldn't let me in. I, however, stayed for the entire evening. I had an opportunity to see our police department in action, our fire department in action, from what they call the control center for this event. And I am absolutely amazed at the professionalism that these folks put in and the protection that they give to the citizens of Surprise. There was a real big reason why we were not letting off the fireworks, and that was because I think it was about a 30 or 40 mile an hour wind. The shooter didn't really want to participate in that environment, and certainly the fire marshal didn't want us to. We were keeping tabs, Peoria, Glendale, Tullison, all those other communities that surround us to see if they were going through with their fireworks. Well, we did a test shot late in the evening. It worked out fine, and then it was just a matter of a few minutes later that the fireworks did happen. I apologize that everybody kind of left the venue, but we were publishing that it would be a 15-minute delay or it would be an additional 15-minute delay periodically through the evening. So everybody that was in the stadium saw that we were trying to work on it. Unfortunately, everybody outside the stadium didn't know of this communication. What we really kind of need is a radio station in which to team up with that will provide music during this display and also announcements should this happen in the future. Anyway, I'm amazed that this is truly a town that has, cares for the needs of the people, and we're very, very careful about not putting a fireworks display into the sky that was going to float over some houses or the library or the pool center. I attended a meeting of the Joint Environmental Task Force. This is clean air, the clean air folks. And I only stayed there for a brief minute because I was in between two meetings and rushed in and rushed out, so to speak. This is a valley fever issue. I grew up in Central California, and I also moved here to Arizona. And these are the two highest impact areas for valley fever because of the soil in the Central California area, as well as the soil and the wind here and the development that is taking place. We do have a problem with valley fever, and we have to make sure that everybody is educated of knowing of the symptoms and so forth. It is something to be a particular interest to you, as well as everybody watching, that check with your doctor about the symptoms of valley fever. I have it. I had it. And it was through a real deep medication thing that I was able to go into remission. And I've had a CT scan recently, and it hasn't happened. It hasn't grown. So it is a very big issue, and it can wipe you out very easily without even you knowing it. You just get so tired. Check with your doctor, find out what the symptoms are. I met with the management staff of a local financial institution, and it had to do with this ad hoc committee that we had formed some time ago regarding foreclosures. We are working together with this financial institution to see if there is a way of a private-public partnership to meet the needs of the citizens of Surprise, is to do debt counseling now and ongoing. That if we can save one person or a family from being foreclosed upon and finding a way out of a problem loan, then we have done our job. And this task force is still looking into the different possibilities. There's more information to come. I also went to Sun City Grand with Councilman Longbaugh. Enjoyed it immensely. Always look forward to communicating with the constituents. We wish that we could do it on a more regular basis than once a quarter, but it's entirely in their hands, and we are at their beck and call. If they would like to have us communicate with their citizens, we are always there. I attended the ad hoc committee meeting last night, and saw that they are headed in the right direction, and I look forward to their continued involvement. Something on a personal note, not only did I quit smoking, but I had an opportunity to go in for a colonoscopy. You know, this may sound like a little Katie Couric thing, and it is. You know, I'm fine. But, you know, there is a big problem of people not getting checked. And what I highly, highly suggest, regardless of how funny you may think this is, I highly, highly suggest that everybody talk to their doctor about should they be get screened for any colon cancer. It is something that we don't talk about, and it's very much of I regret that, because we're all not going to get well if we never talk about it. And I'm fine. Okay, I have a clean bill for the next 5 years, but I highly, highly suggest that everybody take that opportunity to go do something like that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Vice Mayor Villanueva.
Yes, thank you. I'd just like to make a comment on the fireworks. They've come a long way since 10, 15 years ago. They've changed so much. So, and I just want to congratulate Mark on the tremendous job that they've done with the fireworks every year. And as John mentioned, I attended the one at Lake Pleasant. Also, I attended the Revitalization Committee meeting, which they're extremely dedicated to what they're doing. And they'll have their recommendations come before the council pretty soon, and I'm sure Dan will take care of that. And also, today I had the pleasure of going to Westmark. The mayor sent me over, and there were quite a few things that were discussed. They had some initiatives that they wanted to support or not support, and we abstained on every one of them for the simple reason that this council has not been informed of the initiatives, and so we took that that road that we weren't going to get involved in that for right now. So that's about it.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Williams.
Just two quick things, Mayor. I attended the ad hoc foreclosure committee meeting last night. One interesting thing that was discussed that the committee brought through PD was crime-free housing, and I believe the foreclosure committee is going to handle that and provide some recommendations for this council. But if there are communities out there that are interested and are concerned with rental properties, if you own a rental property and you want some ways to better identify the best tenants, our police department has ways of going about and doing that, and contact the crime prevention unit for that. And then this Saturday, if you want to talk, 9 to 11 at Over Coffee on Greenway. If there's any concerns in the community, and especially in my district, come on out and we'll talk. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hall.
Thank you, Mayor. I wasn't able to make the 4th of July celebration. I was at a family get-together over in Southern California, but I was sorry I missed it. I'd also like to welcome you, Randy. And I had a meeting with you Tuesday, I guess it was, for an hour and a half, and it was an excellent meeting. And I'm really looking forward to working with you. I attended the Western Trails Strategy and Tactics meeting about a week and a half ago. And at that meeting, we elected officers and came up with a plan of action. There was a workshop tonight, and a lot of that was presented tonight in the workshop. The other thing is we had a town hall meeting in Sun Village last night, and we had the Northwest Sheriff's Commander here at Bell and Grand, Scott Penrose. He made a presentation on identity theft and some of the things that people can do to protect themselves from identity theft, because it's a huge issue, and especially for the senior community, because as he pointed out, that's the last generation that's trusting. They're not cynical. In that generation used to, a shake of the hand meant something, and so they're more vulnerable than the younger generations. So anyway, it was really good. He came up with 4 or 5 things that seniors can do to really protect themselves. Chief Hughes was also there, made a presentation on their RAP, what he calls the RAP program. It's a risk assessment program where he will send an officer out and evaluate either a business or a home and let you know what the risks are for burglary or whatever. And there's a lot of small things that people don't think about, like leaving their garage doors open so that the heat dissipates. Well, that's fine, except that you're going to have people driving by seeing your garage door open, and pretty soon that's going to be inviting to certain people. And so anyway, it was very good. The chief did a great job, as always. And so did the sheriff, Scott Penrose. I was impressed with him. It's the first time I met with him, and the chief and I got to have dinner with him, and we talked about some things that, the sheriff's department and our police department, they should cooperate, and they do in most cases. But there's some things where they still need to work together on, and so I think that's going to come about. Don't you, Chief? Anyway. That's all I got.
Well, thank you very much. My report is really a little bit more about what I didn't do this last couple of weeks, and actually it's because of a serious illness in my household. There were a lot of important events that I wasn't able to attend, but with great confidence I was able to call upon this council and ask you if you would attend on my behalf. Councilman Alton, with probably less than 24 hours notice, made a presentation to the Greater Surprise City of Chamber of Commerce, and did a wonderful job. 4th of July, Vice Mayor represented me at the stadium, as well as this morning at Westmark. Mr. Hall was there to welcome Sheriff Apio last night at the dinner on my behalf, and appreciate that, as well as Mr. Johnson going out to Luke for the changing of guard of the general. So well done, gentlemen. When we need each other, we're there. So I'm very, very proud of you.
Thank you.
Now, there was one thing that I did do. I took the John Longabaugh challenge and I joined the Herb Museum.
All right.
Hey. So that challenge still is laid out before this council, and for that matter, for our community, is for a minimum of $60, you can go over there and have a 1-year benefit at the museum, and there's lots of benefits for the members. So please consider supporting our local museums. Hurd Museum, West Valley Art Museum. It's important to our growth and into becoming a city of culture, arts, and bringing in those jobs that we want to bring in. So thank you very much, everybody. It's been a really busy week, and not only are you gentlemen out there at the meetings, but you show your compassion through your reports, and appreciate that too. So now we'll turn this over to City Manager Oliver.
Well, I'd like to make an introduction first. We have with us, and I think the mayor and most of the council members have met Jeff Mihalik. He is our new community development director, and I'd like to introduce him to the public. He is from Algonquin, Illinois. Never met him before when I was in Illinois, but we would like to welcome Jeff, and we look forward to working with Jeff and Jeff working with the citizens of Surprise. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Our fire department completed a training session with firefighters from Rocky Point, Mexico. We're recognized south of the border, and they did a number of training exercises, and it was just a good fit and a good opportunity to share some knowledge and work with each other. Biz Arizona edition featuring the City of Surprise is out. It's on the street. It goes to about 45,000 business leaders across the street. Highlights in it are a message from Mayor Truitt, our recreation campus, our responsible focus on the environment, and our business-friendly attitude in great neighborhoods. This publication increases our exposure and sends a very positive message about Surprise around the state and to the community, or to the business leaders. We're working on a follow-up with the company that produces that for the future. The City of Surprise, the community initiatives area, had the Senior American Idol competition. The program was on statewide TV last Wednesday. As News Channel 3 delivered 9 live broadcasts from the Ultra Star Cinema in Surprise Point. So I think, again, that is getting our name out to other places in Arizona and in the Southwest. I'd like to commend Sherry Aguilar, is beginning her term as president of the Arizona Municipal Clerks Association this month. That's quite an honor. And to take the time to congratulate Sherry. It's a lot of work, but it shows that she's very respected by her peers. As was mentioned earlier, Progress Magazine is out. I would note that it has won the Apex Award for Excellent in Government Publishing, which is quite an honor. And our Public Works Department picked up trash on July 4th, and I understand there was some questions as it relates to volume. But the Public Works Department advises me that on July 4th, we picked up about the same amount of trash as we would on any other Friday. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Very good. Call to the public. Deputy Clerk.
Yes, Mayor, we have 3, and the first is LaTanya Finch.
Good evening, Mayor Truitt, members of council. It's kind of great to be at this side of the podium and see you again, although your faces have changed tremendously since I last spoke with you. The reason that I am here today is actually to speak on a personal matter, but I also thought it appropriate and necessary, since I am here, to provide a brief update regarding the BNSF project. I suspect you're all wondering where we are and what we're doing in terms of progressing that development. I just want to give you, again, a brief update. We are moving forward and preserving the integrity of the project, the planning, the land uses that I spoke of on October of last year as we progressed the 2007 GPA. And in fact, we are acknowledging and moving forward towards implementing the timeline that we published last October as well. In fact, I have a meeting with Ms. Hoffman to discuss the pre-annexation development agreement on Monday, and we are looking to move forward with annexation. Since the property is now eligible for annexation, we hope to accomplish both the annexation and zoning of the property by mid-June of next year. So that's what we're looking at in terms of moving forward and developing that site. But as I stated previously, I'm really here to talk to you about a project or a campaign that I think you'd be interested in understanding. It's a campaign of actually international significance. And I have here with me Amandra Beckford, the president of the Antioch Global Outreach, who is going to give you a little bit of information summarizing what that organization is doing in terms of transforming lives and moving the next generation forward. Thank you.
Amandra Beckford.
Good evening, everyone. I was a little bit nervous about coming up here until I heard what Councilmember Alton had to say about his colonoscopy. Then I thought, well, shoot, I'm at home. So my name is Amandra Beckford, and I am the president of the Antioch Global Outreach. Antioch Global Outreach is a nonprofit organization that is dedicated to empowering children in distress worldwide. We partner with local community nonprofit organizations like West Valley Child Crisis Center, St. Vincent de Paul's Feed the Homeless, Faith House, all organizations that we partnering in with them. We also do, on our World Vision, we also go to Uganda and East Africa and Haiti as well. Within these two organizations on both sides of the oceans here, locally what we would want to do is we want to build up the children because we believe that the children is the future for tomorrow. And we believe that in order for our tomorrow to be a better tomorrow, we need to improve on them. I'm looking over at your clock over there. As far as our World Vision, what we have put on is an African Symposium. The African Symposium will allow this council to be able to see what those people that are commuting to the United States, what their train of thoughts are. I looked at statistics, and statistics-wise, 20% of Phoenix growth is African American or African descent. That means that more of African Americans and African descent will be in your community. The African Symposium will highlight some of the needs of the children here, some of the needs of the children there, but more importantly, it will highlight the diversity within the African American community and allow this council to be able to serve the community as a whole and meet the needs of those of the African American descent and of Africa from Haiti and Africa, East Uganda. So, on behalf of the Antioch Global Outreach, I would like to invite each and every single one of you to our African Symposium. It's going to be on August the 2nd. It's going to be at the Westgate Renaissance Hotel and Spa, and it will begin at 6 o'clock. I will have some flyers for you, for those of you who would like, and we would consider it a great honor and a privilege to have either you there, Mayor, or one of your representatives of the council there, just to be able to let the community know that you are interested in the African American community as well as across the water into Africa and Haiti. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Dustin Wright.
Hello. I don't do this type of thing frequently, so bear with me if I'm a little clumsy and awkward. I recently received a letter in the mail regarding a major general plan amendment number 08-038, Surprise Air Park. My property my wife and I just purchased a couple of years ago adjoins this proposed air park. And my property that I purchased, I actually got from my parents. The only reason I knew about it, I assume, is because I border it, and I was sent a letter. There are many other residents in that same area that don't know anything about it. My parents are one of them. Actually, my letter went to their house and they didn't open it. And I didn't even open it until just recently because I didn't know what it was. And, you know, I don't go to my parents' house every single day. So I don't know if this item has been discussed already. It was in the letter, it said it would be discussed tonight. I didn't see it on the agenda, so that's why I put it on the call to public form. But what I'd like to make sure is done is that all of the residents that live northwest of that air park in a little village called Morristown, Arizona, know that, you know, there could be the potential to have an airport literally in their backyard, especially in my case, like my backyard. So that said, I basically would like you guys to put yourself in my shoes. If you purchase property and we're in the process of building a house, you know, achieving the American dream, so to speak, and then have someone say, oh, wait, there's going to be the next Deer Valley Airport right next to all that hard work and all that money that you've put into it. And I'm not the only one. My parents are also building a house there. My brother's building a house there. And many new families are moving to that area. So I recognize that there are definite benefits to an airport for the city of Surprise. And I would like to find a way that those benefits can be met by possibly just moving it next door to state land or some other property that adjoins fewer residents. So I guess in that case, thank you for your time, and thanks for hearing me.
Thank you very much, sir. And as you probably may or may not know, call to the public, we typically can't respond to you, but we can direct staff to give you information. And when we do that, I think you'll be very pleased to understand what the position of the City of Surprise is. So if you staff would take care of that, please, we'll move on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to consent agenda. Council, is there anything on consent that you have a question about? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
So moved.
A motion. Second?
Second.
Please vote.
Unanimous yes vote, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay. Are we ready for item number 9?
Consideration and action regarding the City of Surprise Council open meeting law investigation findings, conclusion, and proposed remedies as prepared by the Arizona Attorney General's Office.
Mr. City Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This evening I'll be presenting this item. I also want to bring to your attention that Rebecca Lumley with the law offices of Moy Story is also in the audience. As you may recall, she's a member of the firm that was hired by the council last year to address this matter. As you are aware, in the packet there is a letter from the Attorney General. One of the requests from the Attorney General was that we would discuss this report. That's what we're doing this evening. Part of that, they wanted us to identify what was in that report, and I will go ahead and do that. The letter identifies 3 issues and a single matter of concern. The first issue that identified in terms of an open meeting violation, it said that the city failed to provide notice regarding a personnel matter. This occurred in 2006. In that regard, most of you are not on the council. What this amounts to is that with regards to an employment discussion in an executive session, there's the requirement that there be a notice. That notice was not provided. The second item would be a failure to maintain adequate minutes. The Attorney General desired that the city capture more information about specific meetings. The third item was a discussion of council business outside of public meetings. And again, with regards to those 2 other items, 6 of the council members at the time, or excuse me, 5, were not on the council, and the letter even acknowledges the fact that 6 of you were not on the council at that time. The other item of concern that the Attorney General identifies has to do with the use of email and phones. The Attorney General stated that there is a statistical significance, that there's an increased use of telephone or electronic communication usage when the council would receive information either by when the agenda packet was generally released or if after a council meeting. With regards to the letter, The Attorney General proposed some resolutions. There was 5 of them. The first was an acceptance of the report. In terms of accepting the report, it would require what we are doing currently, and that is placing it on an agenda. The second was that there would be the opportunity to provide comment from the public. The third would be to hire an open meeting law compliance officer, requiring the city to pay for a compliance officer to attend all meetings and to review all information with regards to the city. The fourth was training, and then the fifth was a cell phone and an email policy. I want to let the council know that as common practice with these, when you're in receipt of these letters, it's common practice to then go and meet with the Attorney General and try and identify what it is they're seeking to resolve. And we work cooperatively to really come to both equitable and fiscally sensitive resolutions. In doing that, on July 1st, myself, Rebecca Lumley with the Law Office of Moy Story went down and we met with the Omelette team, the open meeting law team at the Attorney General's office. Again, working cooperatively, we identified some concerns that we had with regards to the findings, namely the one being that they in fact acknowledged, and that is that 6 of the members that were on the board were not on the council, were not on the council at the time these occurred. Additionally, that there has been a cultural change in terms of the council based upon the fact that the training the council has already received, and just to give you a quick reminder, in case some of you have forgotten the training that you actually have received to date. On December 12th of 2007, you received a memorandum of the open meeting law. On January 2nd, you received a memorandum regarding electronic communications. On February 4th, you received another memorandum regarding the receipt of information. On April 3rd, we had a council workshop on the open meeting law. April 10th, the council discussed an ethics policy and then later approved an ethics policy. June 13th and 14th, the council went to the League of Cities elected official training. And as you all know, this goes beyond open meeting law training and ethic training. It actually goes to full, complete training in what it is to be an elected official. And then in June of this year, there was also a memorandum regarding comments to the media. As many of you now know, there was some concern based upon the AG's past actions that whether or not that elected officials could speak to the press. The press is comforted in the fact now that, yes, there is not an open meeting violation when you talk to the press. So in terms of sitting down with the Attorney General office, we came to some resolutions with regard to the proposed remedial measures. They stated verbally that they were in agreement with them. Based upon your action tonight, the follow-up will be that staff will move forward with these to formalize them with the Attorney General. And what has been proposed is the following. In terms of accepting the following, accepting the report, having the acknowledgement that this council was not the council that was on that was sitting at that time, it would be very difficult for you to attest to the facts of what's in this report. And what we state is that we will, in fact, acknowledge the findings and let the public have the opportunity to speak to the report and also have the report presented to you, which is exactly what I'm doing. The Attorney General agreed and said that was appropriate. Therefore, that's why we're moving in this direction. The second aspect, again, I identified the training that the council had, and as many of you recall, as we go through the training, when I usually provide it, that at the end of it all, it's part of a larger educational program in terms of training. And as I identified that with the Attorney General, they agreed and said that was appropriate. What they asked is continue the training, but in doing so, within the next 6 to 12 months, to consider topics with regards to the use of electronic communications, and this will basically be a thorough discussion with regards to emailing, texting, that kind of stuff. A general refresher course of the open meeting law, that will occur within 6 to 12 months. That'll be a year, kind of the anniversary that the council's been seated. Also, the establishment of a training schedule for open meetings. So as we go through this, we'll establish a regular schedule. Part of this, what this is to do, is to show the Attorney General's office that, hey, we're serious about it. Not only are we just going to respond, we have responded, we've done all this work, and we're still even going to do it in the future. And then as we go through this consideration in terms of a policy or general operating parameters with the use of electronic communications, telephones, text messaging, what else? Email, all that kind of stuff. And the Attorney General was in agreement with that. The final aspect was the open meeting law compliance officer. As has, I think, been a concern, is the fiscal challenge that would put on the city in terms of hiring a compliance officer to come and attend. Additionally, in terms of identifying what the challenges were, we identified the fact that their concerns had nothing to do with the operating of the meeting. Therefore, there was not the need for somebody to sit and perceive what's going on at a meeting. Therefore, what we've proposed, and they were in agreement with, again, we will need to formally propose this to them based upon the direction I received tonight, that we'll use an individual in an auditing function. The auditing function will entail providing them an agenda prior to the meeting, the minutes after the meeting, and they can spot check them, including using a video or a CD, DVD of the meeting. They can spot check it. The proposed individual will either be the City of Phoenix or the City of Glendale City Attorney. This is actually something that's very positive in the sense that we are looking at two individuals who have significant experience as municipal attorneys, and also they will be doing it pro bono, so there will be no cost. In terms of the compliance, they will review and provide a report on a quarterly basis for a year with a final report concluding at the end. In addition to this, we identified the software program Granicus. Currently, it's my understanding we're beta testing it, and we'll be going live with that. The council knows what that is in terms of the public, so you're aware of what that is. It's a real-time program that addresses our minutes. It also puts a video recording of the meeting on the internet where you can access the various aspects of the meeting based upon clicking on the agenda. Rather than waiting and watching the entire 3-hour meeting, you can click on the agenda and it'll take you specifically to that point in time. That was our proposal. The Attorney General was in agreement with that and even commended us, saying that they were more interested in some of the stuff we're doing because they'd seek to, with some of these proposals, make us a model city in terms of compliance with the open meeting law. So in terms of the training and in the Granicus, I commend the council in terms of what you've done already. With that regard, at this point in time, Mayor, I would recommend we receive public comment and then make a motion and move forward. The appropriate motion would be the one that's been identified in the council book, where we will be acknowledging the report and then directing me to take the necessary steps to formalize this. I'm available for any questions. Ms. Lumley is available for any questions that you may have. Otherwise, Mayor, I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, sir. And I think what we'll do is we'll stick to form, and that it would be that I'll invite discussion from council and then ask for an action and then take it to the public who will, if there's public that'd like to speak, and then come back, ask if there's any other consideration, and then we'll take the vote. So having said that, I know that most of us don't really have a lot to say about this this particular issue because we just weren't here and weren't involved. But is there anybody that would like to has anything to say?
I do. First, I have a question, Michael. The training, the ongoing training, will that be done by Moy Story, and is that omelet approved?
Mayor and Council, in terms of what was proposed to Alma, I will be providing the training. When the training is provided, we'll provide them a copy of what's being handled in that regard.
Thank you. Also, since I was here on this, and I was, I'm a part of a portion of this, I just wanted to read a statement, and then we'll go on from there. But the Arizona Attorney General, as you know, is the office that has the very difficult task of investigating and offering opinions regarding the Arizona open meeting laws. In their statement, and I quote, "The open meeting laws are intended to open the conduct of government business to public scrutiny and prevent public bodies from making decisions in secret." I was told that simply asking other council members to second sign an item placed on an agenda for people to hear was not an open meeting violation, and there was no deliberations or discussions. During the hour interview that I answered many questions. A couple statements conflict with what I stated. A couple statements in this report conflict with what I stated, and that does concern me. However, I do agree with the majority of this report. In the report, Omelet has recommended remedies that Michael just said. In a September 13th, there's other training and also that we've had before then. In the September meeting, September 13th of 2007, The report to council from Mr. Sims stated, and I quote, "The city code is unworkable," unquote, and, quote, "the worst enforcement codes ever seen," unquote. Mr. Sims and our city attorney, Michael, have already recommended changes to our city codes and our agenda structure. That has already been voted unanimously and approved, and we've made changes that they've recommended. Also, it has been conveyed to me that our city attorney and Mr. Sims have already discussed this report with the AG's office, and he just gave that, but I wasn't aware of that, so thank you, Michael. The assistant attorney, Mark Harris, who wrote this report or put his name on it, has been cordial and cooperative with me, and I in return with him. I fully support the underlying purpose of the open meeting laws and any measures we can take to assure that citizens of this city and the issues are brought before them to hear. And I will work with the Attorney General's office personally in any way possible, and I have been told that the acknowledgement of receipt is not an acceptance or an individual acceptance of the report as a whole. So that's all I have to say, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anything further? Hearing nothing, may I have a motion, please?
I would move to acknowledge the Attorney General's report and hereby direct staff to take the necessary steps to implement inappropriate remedies.
Second.
We have a motion and a second now. Call to the public. Deputy Clerk, we have people that would like to speak on this.
Yes, Mayor. Mike Woodard.
Thank you, Mayor Truitt, Council. Mr. Bailey, after hearing your report, what I had to say is just out the door, out the window. I think the resolution that you gave tonight certainly is anything, nothing less than what I would have sought to achieve. So I'm very pleased with that. I'm very pleased with the council that you gave him those directions and that he was able to do that. I do have one area of my concern, and we have a council person who was named in this particular investigation sitting on the council. I am quite surprised that Councilman Johnson is sitting on the dais while this is being discussed. I am quite surprised that he was allowed to make a statement that may be on the advice of the attorney, that he's allowed to do that. But we have, as I've said before to this, not to this council, but to the previous council, there are legal things and there are ethical and moral. And I do not believe that what I witnessed tonight was ethical or moral, even if it was legal. But overall, I'm very pleased with how this appears to be turning out. It was a difficult situation. It was a situation that was not of your making. But sometimes when we get lemons, we make lemonade. So thank you.
Bob Vukanovich.
Mayor and Council, looking at the AG's report, I found it quite interesting, and I based on his report was consistent with my belief that all of our reports from the city here on the minutes and stuff like that should be well recorded. I know we can't put them in verbatim, but the city attorney said that the minutes were going to have to be modified, and I'd like to see a consistent record of that. And just to inform you how tough this open meeting law is, one of the meetings that the AG referred to, we had a council member just returning from one of the AG's forums on open meeting law, and he's the one that put it on the agenda, and he's actually the one that helped break the open meeting law, unbeknown to him. I don't think he knew that. Now you take like you have this agenda on the April 13 meeting. Now you go on the internet and you can find you on the council will understand what I'm saying. Agenda without the packet has no information in it. only what's on the agenda. Now, April 13th is not on the agenda with packet. You can't go there and get any information on that meeting. And I tried to find the information because Judge Cragen was on that meeting, was concerned about that, and there, you can't find it. It was on there before. You can't find out how much he was paid. You can't find out the contract, how much we gave him. We gave him over $100,000. That is not on the internet now, because if you go on the internet and the agenda with the packet does not go any further than the 6-month June in 2006. This happened in April. So you can't go back in there. You can't look on the internet to find out how much we paid the Judge Cragen. I don't know why. I don't know why that's not on the internet. And then another thing we have on our meetings here, we have a deal like if you have 38 items and you have 40 items on the agenda, now you go with the minutes, and all of a sudden you don't have 40 agenda items. You only have 38. It's shoved around in there. You don't know what the executive session was. You have no idea what the like one here you have 1, 2, 3 items that was in executive session, but you go back in the minutes, you can't find it. There's no reference to what that executive session. I don't know if that thing should be in there or should not be in there. But I mean, I believe the city is responsible to keep good records on what's happening. And I think we're entitled to go back on the internet and see what's transpired, because nobody would know how much Judge Cragen got except me or somebody else that's been here, and we know what happened. Nobody else would know. Thank you.
Thank you. Does that complete the, okay. Gentlemen, any further discussion? If not, please cast your vote.
Unanimous yes vote.
Thank you very much. Item number 10, please.
Item 10, consideration and action regarding City of Surprise City Council travel and reimbursement policy.
And Mr. Bailey, this one falls to you again for a presentation.
Mayor and Council, this is the travel and reimbursement policy that we recently workshopped. Based upon the feedback, I prepared the item for your consideration. Just to draw to your attention the primary change, there was discussion with regards to per diem and meals. It's on page 4, and what I've placed in there is there's an option B. Therefore, when you act, if you act without identifying that you want option B approved, you will approve it without option B, so you'll need to specify in terms of the direction you want to go with. Otherwise, the changes that were suggested have been incorporated. I'm available for any questions that you have.
Thank you very much. Any discussion?
Through you, Chair. Looking this over, Mr. Bailey, there is still some changes that need to be made, and I think we can address them relatively easy tonight, and then make a motion and possibly get something approved that has been taking so long in order to get this approved. It's very necessary. So let me kind of go through the changes that I recommend. In the text, any reference made to, quote, employee, quote, should be stricken, and it should be council person. It appears as though we've cut and pasted this from something else, and the word employees is still there. The other thing is under section 3 on page 1. I would like to have 3 and 4 stricken, as they are vague and not applicable. Page 2, number 4. I would like the expenses exceeding $6,000 per trip be changed to $4,000 a trip. And the reason for that is $6,000 is half the budget for the council person. I think any travel over 4,000 should be, should have city council approval in the public. The next change that I would suggest is baggage handling on page 6. Here in a new era in flight expenses, and now airplanes are charging baggage fees where they have never been done before. This baggage handling had to do with the sky cap out on the road, out in the street, and they normally charged $1 or $2 a bag. Well, now the airlines are charging per bag if you take an additional bag with you, or in some are even measuring that bag and imposing a fee. Therefore, I would like to have it, any checked baggage handling fee at a reasonable expense should be paid without having coming to council. And that pretty much does it for the changes that I would suggest. And then I think that we probably need to vote on whether or not it be the meal reimbursement as mentioned on page 4, number 2, or 1 and 2, or it would be option number B. So I think that probably needs to be addressed first, and then the overall travel policy needs to be addressed, even though it's one agenda item. What is your thoughts on that, Mr. Bailey?
Thank you. I certainly agree with you, Mr. Alton, is that we would like to get this addressed tonight, and it's very clear that there is an option B, and B would be for that one area alone. With regards to these other items that you mentioned, certainly if this is a council travel policy, it should reflect that as opposed to employees. So I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really sort of ambivalent about the other 3 items that you mentioned. Does anybody have any particular concern about those?
Can you just clarify the baggage handling? I wasn't clear on what you were getting at there.
Well, the baggage handling is through your chair.
Yes, sir.
The baggage handling had to do with, in the old days, we used to pay a sky cap out the road or out on the, you pay them $1 a bag or whatever, $2 a bag. However, that's being changed now in light of the new fees that are being imposed by the airlines. And so, yes, we could still do the $2, but if we are taking additional luggage, say if we're going to a trip to Washington, D.C. and with the League of Cities, and we're going to be going for 5 days, it may have a need to have more than one suitcase to go. And that being the case, we are going to get charged by the airlines to having the second suitcase, extra set of luggage. So should that happen, then that's an expense that ought to be able to be covered under the travel policy of the council.
Anything else? Council?
Did you say, through the chair, did you say number 3 and 4 on authorized expenses on page 1?
Yeah, just strike it.
3 and 4.
No, 3 and 4.
And
it doesn't even really pertain.
Okay.
I mean, we're attending city events. If we attend city events, that should be an authorized expense. That's what we do. And if we're participating in regional, state, and national organizations, the activities affect the city. That's what we should do.
Mr. Johnson?
Through the chair. Item B on page 3, Richard, private automobiles. Members and employees will be reimbursed for actual miles for use of their private cars and travel to and from designated places on city business outside the city. You want to strike that outside the city?
Yes, we had done that before, I believe, Mr. Bailey, and it never did appear on this. That was the suggestion last time.
But, correct. Yes, you are correct in that regard. There was, I did not believe there was a consensus either way. Therefore, that would be appropriate. We'll go ahead and do that now. Also, just one item of clarification with regards, and there's no problem with eliminating employee. However, council members are considered employees of the city, and with regards to the documentation throughout the city, to ensure that you're covered with whatever you're doing. That's why there's been the employee and member been included in there. So there's the understanding.
Through your chair, then could we make it a little bit more concise then and say the employee counselor, or to further, if you want to use both, let's do both, and in such a way as it's not a.
Or how about just replacing the word employee with council member? Is that fine? You okay?
It's fine with me.
Fine? Okay.
Okay. Once again, what we're going to do is I'm going to ask for a motion and a second, and then we're going to have go to the public.
I move to approve Resolution 08-67, including the changes proposed by Councilman Alton and Councilman Johnson in Option B.
Second.
Option B. Do we have a second? Okay,
Second.
motion and a second. Okay, thanks. Deputy Clerk, I believe we have somebody who wants to speak.
Yes, Mike Woodard.
Thank you, Mary Truitt and the council. I'm really pleased, and I want to commend Richard, Councilman Alton, for working on this. I know back in January he was assigned this task by the council, and I'm glad to see this. It's been something that I have asked for and I have wanted and I have lobbied for, and so I'm glad to see it. A while back, about a year and a half ago actually, I did an audit of trip that some council members took, and it was amazing what I found in that audit. And when I look at this current proposal, I see one area that bothers me, because it showed up in the audit that I did as an area that was abused. And it took a year and a half before this city was reimbursed by the council person that abused that process. And this is option B. As I've read option B, I do not see any requirement for detailed explanation of your per diem. Now, the previous page, you have to detail the purpose of the meeting, who you met with, what was discussed, and a great deal of background information for these expenses. And I find that missing in option B. So when I look at the option B verbiage, I come back to lack of accountability, lack of responsibility. It's something that the rest of this document is taken care of, but option B still allows and still leaves a big gray area that I would like to see this council get rid of. Let's get rid of it and move on. There, a lot of things. You did a great job on the ethics policy. This is good, with the exception, in my opinion, of option B. So toss option B out, go with the other one, and you've got two good documents that's taken years to produce. And wow, sure like to see that.
Thank you.
Through the chair.
Yeah, just 1 second. There'll be opportunity to comment after public.
Bob Ikonovich.
This is an agenda item, and some of these things have been cleared, so I just have a couple of questions. And being an agenda item, you guys can answer it. Am I right?
I'm sorry, sir?
If I ask a question, you can answer the question because it's an agenda item?
If it's a question that we can answer, we could answer it.
So if you don't go to item B, I mean that thing to B, and you go per diem, what is per diem? You say $100 for food, and I couldn't find a per diem for food. So how much is the food for?
Yeah, we will answer it, but we'll answer it after your time is up.
Okay.
We're not going to get into a dialogue at this point.
Okay. So then another thing on this here, I wanted to ask is any city traveling going to be paid? Because on page 3, you have a private automobile, and you're only going to reimburse on city business outside the city. That's question number 2. Is any inside the city on private car other than going to the airport, like Councilman Alton said? And let's see, what else was there? Oh, another thing, we went through this before. The city attorney and I got into this before. Are the council members employees? The only way I understood that is council members are employees. They're an employee when they sign a contract. That's what we agreed upon before. I don't know if the city attorney has changed his mind and now council members are employees again. So I'd like to know, are they employees? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Alton?
Yes. As it pertaining to Mr. Vukanovic's question regarding per diem, and you couldn't find the per diem outside of option B. And there's a reason for that. We're not doing per diem. Per diem is an allocation of a certain amount of money, okay? And normally when per diems in business in the corporate world, you get a per diem, you don't have to account for any of that money. If you get $100 a day under a per diem, regardless if you're back in Washington, D.C. or you're in Prescott, California, or Prescott, Arizona, and you get $100 a day, you do not have to account for those monies. In this policy, you do have to account. You do have to bring back receipts. And let me remind you that this is $100 per day, including tips. That means it's really kind of like $85, okay? And $85 in Washington, D.C. doesn't go very far, okay? So I felt when putting this together that made the council more accountable, whereas option B has been put in at the request of other council member that you don't have to bring back receipts. So it's receipts or no receipts.
Thank you. Any further discussion, council?
Through the chair, I'm total in agreement with Councilman Williams's motion, except for the option.
Okay.
Sir, we have a motion and a second, and so that will be reflected in the vote.
May I have just a clarification through the city attorney? If we vote against, this doesn't wipe out this whole travel policy, can it then be restated on another motion without adding the option B?
Mayor, yes, Mayor and Council, that would be correct.
Okay.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, please cast your vote.
We have 4 yes and 3 no. Hall, Alton, and Longabaugh.
Thank you. Okay, Deputy Clerk, we shall move on to item number 11. I don't believe, let's see, this is a report.
Yes. Presentation, report on upcoming Sandy Koufax Baseball World Series and the American Legion Baseball Western Regional to be held at Surprise Recreation Campus and Surprise Stadium.
Mayor, members of the council, Mr. Oliver, I'm here this evening. Many of you are new to the council this year, and many of you have asked me since spring training, what else happens at the campus? You know, Mark, we see Easter, we see July 4th, and we see spring training, and we know that's happening. What else is happening? And Assistant City Manager Sandstrom said, well, Mark, put together something that when we have a significant event, bring it back to the council and let them know what's happening. We're very excited. We actually are in the first week of 6 weeks of state tournaments at the campus. I mean, it was interesting to see yesterday we had Summerton, we had Flagstaff, we had Winslow. I mean, we had visitors at our campus, and for 6 weeks we'll have state tournaments in the Babe Ruth program, the Cal Ripken program, the Connie Mack program, and it'll all culminate here with actually a World Series and an American Legion Western Regional. We're excited to tell you that we have landed the Sandy Koufax World Series. It's a national amateur baseball event. We have a 2-year contract, 2008 and 2009. The 2008 series is July 29th through August 4th. We have 10 teams of 13 and 14-year-olds. And I got to tell you, that's significant. 13 and 14-year-olds have to travel with their parents.
So that's huge. And we're excited that we have that for 2 years. I can't tell you where the teams are coming from because they're all playing in state tournaments across the country. I can tell you last year the championship team was from Orlando, Florida, and they're all playing in state tournaments today. And in the next 2 weeks, they'll also play in regional tournaments. But it's interesting that across the country, they know the championship site is Surprise, Arizona. So we're excited. We're excited about that. We've been utilizing an economic impact model given us by management and budget, and we're conservatively really estimating these impacts at 200 to 300 room nights. And I want to be really clear that these room nights are only with respect to the players that are coming to town. We're not factoring in the visitors. We're not factoring in mom, dad, grandparents, all the aunts and uncles that might come. Really, the revenues that all city revenues for this event are maintained by the city. The costs are basically to prepare the fields. They pay for umpires. They pay for baseballs. So all the indirect costs are theirs. The economic impact, conservatively speaking, is about $300,000. Now, we all know economic impacts can be inflated. I thought I'd throw that number out because, it's significant, again, because we're only factoring in 50% of the players, not factoring in the fans that might follow. And that Koufax series for a couple of years should do very well in historically a month that, tourism isn't very vibrant in Surprise. We're very excited to have American Legion Baseball. It's the oldest baseball organization in the United States. This Western Regional tournament will be August 12th to the 18th, and we do know where the teams are coming from. We'll have visitors from Hawaii, California, New Mexico, Utah, Colorado, Nevada, and 2 teams from Arizona. But what this is, more significantly, just the Western Regional, it gives us the opportunity to prove to the Western region that we can host in future years a World Series. So we're very excited about that. The economic impact using the model given to us by management and budget is about a $400,000 impact. And I will tell you that, Mark, the question would be, how can you prove those numbers, Mark? Are those numbers real? Well, what I can tell you is in the recent high school football classic that we had with the All-Star Classic that we had several weeks ago, historically, our hotels in Surprise during the month of July and August have a 20% occupancy. During that week or those 2-3 weeks of that All-Star Classic, occupancy rates in Surprise were at 70-75%. So it's very interesting to watch the growth. The campus works. Yes, it is the home of the Kansas City Royals and Texas Rangers, but it's also the home of many, many visitors throughout the year. And I wanted to take this opportunity to bring that to you, and that's my report.
Thank you very much, sir. Any questions, Mr. Hall?
Yeah, Mark, on the financial impact statement in our book, it says, it talks about the item has been approved by council, and it goes on. The total amount of line items is $138,700. Now, is that the budget for the whole year? What are we talking about? What's that number mean?
What that would be is for us to place our part-time staff at the gates to collect the admission fees. Okay. If we were responsible for awards, in this case, in these 2 tournaments, we're not. Anything that's ancillary, which would be softballs, baseballs, it's a line item that gives us the authority to expend. These 2 events, the expenditures are very, very limited. We absorb all the maintenance costs through our operation of the baseball maintenance budget, but it's the authority to, if an organization came to us and said,
Mark, excuse me, you could come back to us and say, here's what the real cost was?
Absolutely. Absolutely for each event. Absolutely.
Okay, excellent.
In detail.
Okay.
Through the chair.
Mr. Johnson.
I just want to say thanks again, Mark. I've been there just watching it, and I've heard parents and kids alike just say they can't believe it when they're playing on fields that are manicured and people go out there and they're like the pros where they get the dirt raked every, once in a while and they take a break. So I've heard people from all over, parents and kids, just say what a privilege it is to play on those fields and how lucky we are to have a sports campus like that. One thing I do want to mention to our council members too, the good thing about tourism and events is it doesn't permanently tax the infrastructure of the city. It doesn't permanently put a burden on the infrastructure. So when we get events like this, yeah, it's a temporary burden on our infrastructure, but not a permanent burden, which is another really good thing when we bring things in like this. So thanks, Mark, for the great job you do, and I look forward to this. This should be a great tournament. Thank you.
Mr. Alton.
Through you, Chair. And Mark, I thank you and congratulate you for a marvelous job that you do at the facility. I was a skeptic at one time, as we all know, but I am a believer now. I have had an opportunity to work with you and to see your fiscal responsibility that surfaces, and I appreciate that. Again, thank you for your report, and we look for many, many more from you. Thank you.
Thank you for the confidence, sir.
Thank you for your report. Have a
Mayor.
good evening. Item number 12.
Consideration and action on the recommendations of the Ad hoc Foreclosure Committee on Code Enforcement.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'll be brief. The Foreclosure Committee recognizes its role as an advisory body and as such has provided the Council with a list of recommendations to strengthen our enforcement program. Through your actions, we as a city have an opportunity to position ourselves to be proactively addressing the public health and safety concerns by responding to the potential for blight in our communities. In addition to dealing with foreclosures from job loss and upside-down property values, the majority of the adjustable rate mortgages tied to the most recent housing boom were issued between the years 2004 and 2007. Many of these have yet to reach their initial reset dates, and that is the date when the new interest rate kicks in. The month of July, this month, is expected to hold a peak number of interest rate resets, leaving the potential for many more foreclosures to come before us in the fall. We cannot stop the foreclosures from occurring, but we can work diligently to mitigate the effects on our city. The committee's code enforcement recommendations before you provide a means to do just that. While our recommendations are advisory, they are based on extensive research and best practices employed in other cities. So with that, I formally submit to you the committee's code enforcement recommendations for your consideration and action. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Through you, Chair.
Mr. Alton?
Thank you, Monica. Let it be known that this is just one item that's coming forward. There would be more. I believe the end date of this ad hoc committee is September 8th. I remembered. September 8th. And we will periodically be receiving some requests. It will not be for money, okay, as we had promised in the past when we put this together. It'll be for action. And I believe that this is an item that needs to be looked at, but I believe also that the city attorney has some comments that he would like to make as well on this. Or the city manager wants to make a comment on this.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. With regards to this, again, this is advisory in nature, and we'll be sitting down with staff and looking at these proposals. And one of the challenges that we have is that the ad hoc committee has done such a good job and looked across really at national solutions. And one of the challenges we're faced with in the state of Arizona is that sometimes as a common law or a general law city, we don't have that authority. So we'll be looking into that, providing the response to the ad hoc committee as well, so that they can come back in the event that there's additional proposals, and they may be coming back to it at a later date as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, thank you. May I have a motion, please?
Move to accept the recommendations of the ad hoc committee and direct the city manager and legal staff to review the material submitted and bring back specific actions for the council to adopt.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Deputy Clerk, do we have anybody from the public?
Bob Vukanovich?
Last time I asked 3 questions, only got 1 answer, so I'll only ask 1 question this time.
We'll try to give you 3 answers then.
Beg pardon?
I said we'll try to give you 3 answers then.
This, I thought this report was very good, but the ad hoc committee, they drew heavily, I think, on that city of Murrieta in California for their advisement to the city council. The only thing what I wish that you would consider, if it's possible, in the one you just voted on, you voted on a $250 penalty, and in Murrieta they have a civil penalty, and that penalty goes up to $1,000 per violation. So you might want to look into the violation, and bigger the violation, the better returns I think you'll get. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any further discussion, council? Hearing none, please cast your vote.
Unanimous yes vote.
Thank you very much. Item number 13.
Yes, consideration and action on negotiating and entering into contracts for original art in the new City Hall. The art will be in the atrium lobby and in the mayor's lobby.
Mayor and Council, I'd like to introduce Christy Miller, who is the Chair of the Arts and Cultural Advisory Board. They have worked diligently over the last 2 years on item 13 and 14, and she's going to present those to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor
Good
and
evening.
Council. Let me just find mine here. As most of you know, in June of 2002, the City Council committed to a 1% art budget. Pretty much it's for capital improvement programs, anything above ground, and there are some caveats, obviously not utility buildings and that kind of stuff. Since I've been on the board, we've funded 5 projects through this, and I've only been on the board for a couple of years, so it's been very successful. We've had a lot of good art represented and a lot of people participating in our art programs. The item we're talking about today is in City Hall, obviously. The mayor and atrium lobbies is what we're calling them. You can see the main atrium, the mayor's lobby area. We submitted requests for proposals. They were requested in January of 2007. The RFPs were advertised in various locations, including through artists, various websites, the newspapers, that kind of thing. 7 RFPs were received. The Arts and Cultural Board reviewed the 7 responses to these RFPs for the mayor and atrium lobby. Artists were asked to apply for each area separately. All artists were asked, all of the individual artists that responded were asked to be considered for both of these projects. So there were 2 projects. They could have 2 individual artists, and every artist that applied wanted to be considered for both of them. There's a typo there. Budget of $150,000 was contracted for the atrium lobby and of $75,000 for the mayor's lobby. It should read $150,000. The board narrowed it down from the 7 to 2 main artists. The atrium lobby, we would recommend Ramona Saca-Estua of Santa Fe, New Mexico. And for the mayor's lobby, Meltdown Glass, which is owned by BJ Katz, and she's out of Chandler, Arizona. Ramona, just to give you a little background for her, she's considered one of the Native American influential artists across America. She has worked diligently for the National Museum of American Indian, which is a part of the Smithsonian campus. Also, she's done a carpet. You can see there in the lower slide, the lower part of the slide. In the Tempe Center for Performing Arts, she's known for her tapestries, her weavings, her designs, and that kind of stuff. And in that particular carpet, she not only came up with the textures and the colors and the concepts, but how it would lay out and all that kind of stuff. Meltdown Glass is also famous for their glass and kiln-fired glass and the different things they can produce. If you've been to Sky Harbor Airport, you've seen their work, especially Terminal 4. You can see there in the upper corner. Those are the stuff that's the glassworks that are over the terminal signs and different things in Terminal 4. Also, just a couple other examples there of atriums and foyers that BJ Katz and her company Meltdown have produced. The next step in this process is obviously approval from council. Then we would hire the artist. The artist would meet with the public and the City Hall representatives, anybody that's going to enjoy and see this art, as well as the architect. And she'll gather impressions, importance, significance, and then put together a design. The design's reviewed by us on the art board, and then will be sent to you, to the council. And once all that's approved, then the artist will move forward. So the artist doesn't move forward until we've approved designs. But with public art, you can't just say, I'm going to do X without seeing the space, talking to people, and getting a feel for what's going on. So it is kind of a multi-step process. That's all I have for that particular one. Answer any questions for you?
Questions on item number 13?
I have a question. Through your chair.
Mr. Alton.
What's the timeline?
For this particular one, we're actually kind of behind. Her fabrication process, it depends on once we get the approval. So after approval, then she'll be immediately ready. Both at the same time will be immediately ready to begin. And then once we get approval that they can go, then it will take about 3 to 6 months for approval for the designs. They'll produce the designs, and then it'll be installed.
He wants to do a touch and feel over at City Hall on the space and so forth where this art is going to be.
Yes, I see what you're saying. Yes, she wants to come in.
But that's
and look.
not ready yet.
Well, granted, but the architectural space is there. And so she needs to meet with the architect to make sure whatever, if they wanted to hang an item, for example, it would hold the ceiling or the wall brackets, the sconces for lighting, that kind of stuff. So they need to start with that process and then also talk to people, and then they would get design.
Okay, so what is the timeline? What do you think the completion date would be?
Well, it obviously can't be installed until City Hall is completed.
Right. At the same time, you think?
Well, it usually goes hand in hand. Public safety is ready to be installed as public safety is finished and that kind of stuff.
Right. So there's no delay, no wait. It's going to be at the same time as City Hall.
Theoretically. Well, I don't know the art. I can't tell you off the top of my head.
Is that part of your contracting?
Yes, they have a timeline.
Completion date? Okay.
Dependent upon the completion of the building and approval by council.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Hall.
18 months for the RFP to be completed.
I have no idea. I'm sorry, that's out of my hands.
Did somebody answer that?
Yes, sir. We put the RFP out, we let it out for 2 months, and then for about 3 to 4 months, we did not have a quorum for the arts boards. So there were several things that happened that by the time the arts board was constituted again, then they took a couple of months. They interviewed the artists. They looked at all of the, it took them a couple of months to make a decision out of the 7 as to who they wanted to recommend to you.
Now, how long has the public safety building been open?
Public safety building's been open, what, a year?
And we're just getting around to putting the art in. So to
Yes.
answer
But the
Councilman
art's been
Alton's
ready.
question, City Hall could be the same problem, right?
No, the art has been ready. We've been getting, we have to get approval for final designs.
Yeah, I know.
She's made several trips here, met with everybody there. It takes a couple of months to do that.
Okay. Now, let's, you went through that real quick about the vertical construction. Okay. We're talking about 1% of cities' capital
Right.
projects, right?
This city's capital project.
Yes,
Right.
this city. You didn't say that. I want to make that clear. It's anything that the city builds. It's
Right.
not 1% of, okay. So that fund has been, what's the balance in that fund?
It is. We've already taken out the, I don't have it in front of me. We've already taken out the money allocated for this particular project, and we still have about $300,000 in that fund.
Okay. And so,
331, is it? 317,000.
okay, so it's not coming out of the general fund. This has been assigned,
Yes.
set aside, and it was based on a council action in 2002.
And it's been added to, obviously.
Right. Every time there's a fire building, or any building that's a city building that's been built, 1% of that cost is
Above
gone
ground.
into that fund.
Above ground.
Above ground.
Right.
Vertical, yeah, okay. So I just want to make that clear to everybody, that this is not coming out of the general fund.
No.
Because this, I personally, I have a problem with this, okay? But it's been done and whatever, okay? We're in tough times, with tough economic times, and spending this much money for art bothers me. I'm just saying that. I'm just putting it on the record, okay? And in fact, I think that based on the amount of money, we're talking $225,000 total, okay? That we really ought to rethink this, in my opinion, and I would like to move to continue this for a month, because I think there's another way to do art in the city hall. Get the West Valley Art Museum involved, get Heard Museum involved, and get local artists. There's a lot of local artists in Surprise.
Excuse me, but those members are already involved. The West Valley's on the board, the Heard Museum's on the board, and local artists were asked to submit. We had one, Joe Tyler, who's already doing the fire station and has done the tree at the library.
Okay, but West Valley Art Museum is going to produce art into City Hall?
No, I said they're on our board.
Okay.
Oh, they're on the board.
We have a motion. Do we have a second on that motion? Motion dies for lack of second. Please be sure that the,
Which is the motion?
The motion was
Motion
to
is to
continue.
continue it for a month.
Is there a second on that motion? Okay, that will let the records reflect that the motion dies for lack of a second. May I have a motion or action on this item?
I would move to have the city manager negotiate and enter into a contract in the amount of $150,000 to Ramona Sacagawea for the public art in the atrium lobby of the new city hall. I also move to have the city manager negotiate and enter into a contract with the amount of $75,000 with meltdown glass for the public art in the mayor's lobby in the new city hall.
We have a motion second. Any further discussion?
I just would like to say for the record, the reason I'm happy to make this motion is I believe in public art. I think that if we're going to spend $60 million on a building, we can spend a couple $100,000 on making it look like a building that the city citizens will be proud of saying, this is our city hall.
Anything else?
Mr.
Johnson?
I want to echo my concerns of Councilmember Hall, but also my agreement with Mr. Longabout. We've got we went this far. It's a first-class building. It's going to be somewhere where hopefully the economic development and the community development and all of our people can draw upon that when people come into the city for looking to bring businesses here and stuff like that. That's like an entry into our city, in my opinion. So I appreciate your concern. If that's the case, I would say you could, we put 1% in there. That might be able to be changed. I don't know, but you might want to look at that in the future, Councilman Hall. But for now, I would support this, and thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Alton?
Yes, through you, Chair. I also am a little torn. However, I do feel that we probably should go ahead with this. And the suggestion I make is not too many people, of our citizens are going to see, unless they go to City Hall, are they going to see this art? Or if they don't go to the police station, they're not going to see this art. My suggestion going forward, I support this. I will vote for this. But my suggestion going forward is that we look at true public art in the city of Surprise. Not necessarily sequestered into a confine of a building that the general public may or may not see, okay? But on the roads, and we did it at the library, okay? But there's different areas throughout the city of Surprise that we could have some vibrant art that is highly viewable by everyone in the population, and I totally support that. Okay, so that being said, I'll hand it back to you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Any further comment? If not, please cast your vote.
6 yes and 1 no. Hall?
Thank you. And if you'll continue with item number 14 after she reads it.
Consideration and action on the final design of public art in the public safety building.
All right, here we go again. Public safety building. Corin Ralstad is the artist for this particular one. Public art for the public safety building, including 5 total spaces with a budget of $150,000. Corin went through the RFP process and the artist selection, just as I have mentioned with what we want to do with City Hall. She went through that entire process earlier. On June 14th of 2007, the council voted to approve her contract. After meeting with the public, the architect, and the users of the public safety building, Corin submitted designs for her approval. Several designs were submitted. She's made several trips back and forth. She is based out of Oregon. Seattle, Washington. Each area has a theme that pertains to Arizona as well as the departments they represent. She has a whole idea and theory behind all of this. Representatives from fire, police, courts, and broadcasting gave input and suggestions. You can see the little colored areas are the 5 spaces where the art will go. Corin made revisions after meeting with everybody. She went through another process of revisions to make sure that everybody's criteria were met, suggestions were heard, any concerns, and went back and talked to everybody to make sure every single section was happy with not just what she was doing, but also with the overall theme and the department heads asked their own staff, and there was all kinds of give and take on that particular process. You should have received a CD that had all of this on here, so I'm just going to briefly kind of show you some highlights. The idea behind the courts is obviously the head or the brain, the tree. She's going to put art here in the front desk and also on the sitting room. The other thing that's interesting about this particular project is that Corin has done actually more than what we've asked. She has gone ahead and put art in additional places or put in 2 pieces instead of 1 because she felt it would make the space more appropriate, more comfortable, and follow the theme. Police, the element is sky and hands. She's adding, again, these are visuals. This hasn't been done, obviously, but this is what it will look like. She's adding what looks to be like a poster here. She's adding this quote, the ceiling tiles. Apparently there's some acoustical problems there, and so these circles on the ceiling actually help keep it more intimate and a more quiet area. There's an adjoining corridor that meets up between fire and police, and she's going to put mixed media along there between metal and different plexiglass and different layers and stuff. This is very three-dimensional through these particular areas. Fire. Obviously an element of water and heart. Again, there's a mural, quotes. She's also putting fabrication along this particular wall. And the broadcast area, the element of flora or seeds, and then obviously mouth or speech is what she's done here. And again, it's a three-dimensional poster with the birds and another quote. Obviously, the next step is approval of these final designs, and then she can begin fabrication and installation. She's very excited to get going with this. She's been chomping at the bit, as a matter of fact, to get going on this. She's very excited about the entire project.
Thank you. Any questions?
Mayor?
Mr. Longbell.
I really enjoyed reviewing the CD on this particular project. It's a great combination of not only the visual arts, but poetry, speeches of famous individuals. It's a great combination to me of public art in, I think, the best way that we could look at it. And I commend your board for your review and your vetting of this and your review of this along with the departments involved. Thank you for all your work on this one.
Thank you.
Mr. Johnson?
Through the chair. I just wanted to, Richard, that's a very good comment you had, and I'll make it again on this one since it is artwork. But the interiors of the building are great, but something that everybody can see and go, wow, something that's outside of the buildings occasionally, I think would be a good idea for you to look at, where more than just people going into these buildings would appreciate it. So if you guys could take that into consideration sometime, I think that would be a very, very wise idea. Thank you.
Have an action.
I move to approve the final design of the public art for the public safety building as presented on the CD.
Second.
Motion and second. Further discussion? Hearing none, please cast your vote.
Unanimous yes vote.
I would like to thank the Arts and Cultural Advisory Board for all the work that you do and really appreciate it. And perhaps this would be an opportunity for your board and the council to come together for some future education so we can better understand what art in public places really looks like.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll move to item number 15.
Consideration and action on an agreement with Greater Phoenix Economic Council for fiscal year 2009 in the amount not to exceed $40,878 for national and international economic development marketing services.
Mr. Hagan.
Great. Thank you, Mayor, Council. It's a pleasure to be here. I have with me Scarlett Spring in the audience from GPEC, who's here in case there's any questions. This concerns an annual contract that the city usually always undertakes. As with GPEC, it's actually a kind of a membership we buy, but it takes the form of a contract. This year, the rate for the contract is $40,878, I believe. That's up a little bit from last year because it's based on population. The per capita rate is 39 cents, which is never changed as far as I know, but because our population growth has changed according to Maricopa Association of Governments, it's gotten bumped up a little bit. So what this buys us, in effect, is three things. One, we're part of a regional consortium that promotes the whole metropolitan area for economic growth, so it promotes the image of the greater Phoenix area and by extension the city of Surprise. Secondly, it gets us a voice at the table on regional economic development issues. We do have a representative who has been Joe LaRue, and I think that'll be coming up here for renewal here shortly, and I believe we'll, because of our population growth, we'll actually get a second seat there, so that will be really good. And then, of course, the third thing it buys us is potential locates or prospects to the city of Surprise on major economic development projects. We've been getting a lot of attention from GPEC lately. We talked about that, I think, in our workshop here a few weeks ago. And I think I told you at that time we kind of had a bead drawn on some of the other communities because we would like to get more prospect visits and ultimately projects here. And I looked in their latest report, and we're now tied with Scottsdale for number 2, right behind Phoenix. So it's going to be hard to catch Phoenix because they had 27, but Scottsdale and us have had 9 visits this year to date, and that's really great because a couple of years ago we were getting just 1 or 2. So we're getting very, very close. We have a number of projects in play, and we're hopeful that this will be the year that we'll really nail some very large projects now that we have our infrastructure in place and some other things that we're doing, as you are well aware. There is one minor change to the contract. At the suggestion of the city manager, there's an exhibit on the end of the contract, Exhibit C. It had some targets, industries that were listed for us, and we've kind of amended those slightly to include target industries that are a little more in tune with what we are currently contemplating. So environmental technology, advanced medical services, biotech, education, healthcare, transportation, and distribution are sort of on the list. Doesn't mean we won't work with other types of businesses, but it kind of tells GPEC these are the types of things that we're highly focused on at the moment. And so with that, that's my presentation, and certainly would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. And at this point, I think I'd like to turn it over to the city manager, who has some suggested language for the wording of the motion.
Yeah, I believe that Mr. Hagan answered that, but what we would suggest on the motion is that the motion be, I move to approve the FY 2009 agreement with Greater Phoenix Economic Development Council, an amount not to exceed $40,878, adding the following items under Exhibit C to the Surprise member communities. Will target the following in the contract to include environmental tech, advanced medical services, biotech, education and healthcare, transportation and distribution. As Mr. Hagan said, I think this provides a clear vision both for ourselves as well as for the GPEC to focus our activities on.
Thank you very much. Mr. Alton.
Yes, I have a question, John, and maybe possibly the city manager. Why transportation and distribution?
Well, transportation and distribution is kind of the term for the industry sector that includes the both what's going on up at potentially in the future with the BNSF Logistics Center, and also down in the what we call the Southwest Railplex that is rail served. So I think there is a great distribution opportunity. We have rail, and that's the play. So it does. We have been working on that, not exclusively that, but there is a good play there.
Well, my suggestion is that we don't play this hard. That we're going to have such a problem meeting the transportation needs should that happen up north. Okay, that I think we should downplay getting more and more of those referrals for those types of industries. If they come to Surprise, then we look at them on a case-by-case basis. And we also look at the impact as to those potential businesses. But I think we should just kind of low-key it and maybe not put it on the hit list of what kind of industries that we're looking for at this particular moment. Maybe down the road as 303 gets connected, and improved, and Hacienda freeway system or whatever ADOT is going to be bringing in. But I think in the interim, I think we should probably just take that off the list.
Actually, I would suggest that we consider that I don't really want to take it off the list because we have an area that's served by a rail spur. We just brought in one distributor. We were celebrating that a few months ago. And so we already have an area that's primed for this type of business. So I think it's valid. We should keep it. And of course, there's other things that aren't on this list that we would anticipate that staff would be encouraging GPEC to bring to the table. So we're excited about those hits that we're getting. Is there any other comment from council?
Through the chair, I have a question. John, do you have a sample collateral package that we give to GPEC?
I don't have one with me, but we'll give you one. Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Could I get
sure.
a copy of that?
Yeah.
I've never seen it.
Oh, yeah, we got to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, you say we had 62 prospects in FY2A.
Yeah, GPEC prospects.
GPEC prospects. Yeah. And did we make any deals out of the 62?
No, but most of them are in play still.
They're still, okay. Most of them are still in play, okay.
Thank you. May I have action on this?
I move to approve fiscal year 2009 agreement with Greater Phoenix Economic Council and the amount not to exceed $40,878, adding the following items under Exhibit C to surprise membership communities. Will target the following in the contract to include the following.
We have a motion and a second. Deputy City Clerk, do we have anybody from the public that wants to speak on this item?
Yes, Mayor, we have Bob Vukanovich.
Mayor and council, I've always been in support of this JPEG. Recently, you guys had a meeting, and some of you members were concerned about what was our benefit from them to the city. So according to this here, I've been out of town. It looked like you've had a meeting with workshop for about 3 hours. Now, that's what I was hoping the AG's report would show our open meeting laws. You go on the internet, even this meeting tonight, the concerns that the council members here had last time never been addressed. You can't find out anything about how you guys made this decision. You don't say what the benefits are. You didn't do, like I said, there's no minutes. There's no minutes on this here except just a few remarks from the council. So I'm just curious how you guys, why we don't have some kind of documentation, how you arrive at this. I'm in favor of GPEC. I'm not against them. I'm not against giving them the money. But I mean, when you guys make remarks that you're concerned about what the benefits are, then you let us know what the benefits are. Let us, put it on the internet, because that's the way I understand that the open meeting laws is supposed to be all about. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wants to speak?
No, Mayor.
Hearing that, is there any further discussion?
Just one comment, Mayor. I just want to commend John Hagan and his staff. I had the opportunity to go with John and Janine to a GPEC meeting where we saw a presentation from Solar City, and I think I spoke to that last meeting, so I'm not going to go into too much detail, but surprises at the table. And when you talk about what is the benefit of GPEC, I think we did have that 3-hour session, and surprises being well represented with John Hagan and his staff, and he has shown that evident with us tied with Scottsdale. I think that's pretty impressive for the city of Surprise, and we need to continue that.
Thank you very much. Nothing further. Please cast your vote.
Unanimous yes vote.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to item number 16.
Yes, Mayor, discussion and consideration on GPA 08019 entitled Cotton Lane North and South, a major general plan amendment to the City of Surprise 2020 general plan pertaining to property generally located at the southwest corner of Cotton and Waddell and consisting of approximately 44 acres, changing a portion from low-density residential to mixed use, located half-mile west of Loop 303.
Wow, just reading that's probably longer than the presentation, right?
Of course. Good evening, Mayor Truitt and members of the council. For the record, my name is Vinita Karta, planner with Community Development Department. As City Clerk said, this presentation is for GPA 08-019, Cotton Lane North and South, a major general plan amendment. I will not go through this section. It's a fly-through. It just takes a little bit of time. The property is about 44 acres in size. Immediately to the east is Prasada Development, highly intense uses. Farther to the west of the project is several residential developments, Sierra Montana, Sierra and Ranch, Surprise Farms, to quote some. Immediately to the north, to the west, and to the south, properties are agricultural and for the most part vacant. The project is located at the southwest corner of two major arterials, Cotton Lane and Waddell Road. The current land use is low-density residential at a density of 3 to 5 dwelling units per acre. The major general plan amendment will alter the land use to a mixed-use land use classification. This pretty much concludes my presentation, subject to any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Mr. Alton.
Excuse me. The color coding on this map that you have is all mixed use?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, and right now the site is not that particular color because it's not mixed use.
Mm-hmm.
You're just sharing with us what it's going to look like if this gets approved.
To the mayor, yes, that's absolutely correct.
Thank you.
Anything further?
Where's the nearest fire station, did you say?
It's at Cotton Lane Greenway, up north.
Right there, okay.
May I have an action, please?
No action.
Oh, no action. This does, I believe, require a call to the public, though. Is there anybody from the public who wishes to speak on this item? Hearing none, I close the call to the public, and thank you very much for that timely report. Item number 17, if you please.
Discussion and consideration on GPA 08033 Grand Oasis, a major general plan amendment to the City of Surprise 2020 general plan pertaining to property generally located north of Dove Valley Road and west of Grand Avenue and consisting of approximately 155.2 acres.
Good evening, Madam. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Vamshika Uru, planners, City of Surprise. This presentation is for major general plan amendment GPA 08033 Grand Oasis. As you can see from this slide, the property is located on west of Grand Avenue, just north of Dove Valley Road. As you can see here, to the east of the property are BNSF Commercial and Grand Vista, and to the west is the Broadstone Ranch. Broadstone Ranch and BNSF Commercial properties have gone through a similar general plan amendment process in 2007. The Grand Vista property was annexed recently. As per the transportation map, the site has a temporary access through the Grand Avenue. The applicants are working with the Broadstone Ranch and the ADOT for a permanent access through Broadstone Ranch Boulevard in the future. The current land uses for this property are rural residential, and the applicants propose a land use change from rural residential to high-density residential and low-density residential. The applicant is here and will be glad to help you with any questions or concerns. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Anything from the council?
I just want to make sure philosophically, this gives flexibility. That's what we're really saying. Flexibility to develop the site with a mixed, right? That's philosophically what we're saying.
Philosophically, it will actually it will change the land use from rural residential to high-density residential and low-density residential. So it will be a mix of housing, yes.
Okay, this item requires a call to the public. If there's anybody from the public that'd like to speak, please step forward. Seeing no one, I close the call to the public. Thank you very much. We're going to take a 8-minute break until 8 o'clock sharp, and then we'll resume the meeting. So we're on break. Thank you.
much abuse during that.
Okay, I call the meeting back to order, and we'll read item number 18.
Item 18, discussion and consideration on GPA 08036, General Plan Update, a major general plan amendment to the City of Surprise 2020 General Plan pertaining to the goals and policies that guides fiscal growth and development of the city, bringing the plan in conformance with ARS, including an energy element, health and safety element, and an enhanced environmental element.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, I'm here to talk about General Plan 2030, One City, Many Choices. This is a rewrite of the general plan. As all of you probably know, we're required by ARS to do a general plan. It does go to vote every 10 years. This particular rewrite is in preparation for a public vote next year. The general plan does guide the physical growth and development of the city. In the process this time, there was a three-step method that we used. We spent a lot of last year doing a lot of visioning with the community. We spent the fall of last year writing the plan. We finished that up early this year, and we spent most of this year reviewing the plan. So that's where we're at right now in the review stage, that third stage. As part of the review stage, it's already went through tremendous outreach with the community. We've spent a lot of time with the other city departments going through the plan. Last month, we had a number of hearings with the Planning and Zoning Commission. Right now, we're here to do a public hearing tonight with you, and we'll be back on July 24th to any kind of consideration. And then back in August again to talk about an action plan that might be associated with this plan. The document format itself, what we're looking at are 20 different elements or chapters. They're all dealing with some sort of city issues such as growth, circulation, public buildings, services, education. And rather than go through that tonight, just want to talk to you a little about the vision that we heard last year and how the plan addresses that. One of the issues that we talked about was open space. We talked to the community. They love the open space opportunities there in the city of Surprise. What they did want to see is more diversity. You see on the slide, it's Portland's living room or like a Scottsdale Civic Plaza they're looking at. And they're also realizing that we're moving out to the desert area, and they like to see more trails and things like that. What we did with the plan then, we understood that the community definitely values recreation. Our facilities that we have here are top-notch. What they'd like to see are more diverse opportunities. The idea of making public art visible in some of these open spaces. Working with partnerships with the community and strengthening the community are the things that the plan has added to it. As far as future growth, when we went out to the community, two things were strong. They want to see villages, an idea of a village concept to strengthen the neighborhoods, and also they wanted to see growth along transportation lines. What we did with the plan, we put together a village plan or introduced a village concept that would create strong neighborhoods, also would create accessible, connected, and improve, we hope, the quality of life for the community. As far as transportation, again, the vision was more choice in the city of Surprise. Better efficiency, the buses, the transit, some of the things that we're looking at now and just getting started, these are the things the community definitely was on board and wanted to see in the future. These are things that the plan does address. The environment was one area that really stuck out as far as our visioning sessions. The community was very strong in saying we want Surprise to be an environmental leader. What we did with the plan then is take a look at all the environmental elements and provide a base or a foundation to go forward with the city. We want to make sure, again, it comes down to quality of life. Education, again, was another strong point with the community. What we did is include a new element in the plan, one that's not required by ARS, but something that the city of Surprise makes a statement saying we believe in education. The plan itself talks about lifelong learning, higher education, and again, I hate to be repeating too much, but the quality of life for the citizens. All in all, when we look at the plan, there's three themes that emerge from this plan. One is building heritage. We're talking about that, and whatever we're doing today is going to build our future. We want to make sure what we do today, we do well. The other is neighborhood matters. What we're talking about there is regardless of what kind of plans we have on a conceptual stage or paper stage, what's going to matter is how our neighborhoods function, how our everyday quality of life is. The other thing on the far end of the spectrum is the idea of global village. We're no longer just the city of Surprise detached from Phoenix. We have a lot of opportunities here. Our Economic Development Department understands that and has done national work. The City of Surprise has moved into a new era, and that's reflected in the city in the general plan. And the plan's name is One City, Many Choices, to reflect the diversity in growth in the city. As far as village planning, I just want to mention a few things. We went out to the community. We talked a little about village planning. There's a big, huge, on the map over here, it's just a graphic. It's this concept. We're not looking at creating any boundaries on this particular time. We're going to take the next year, work with the community, the citizens, and say, where do you think villages should be located? What we hope to do with the village planning, what it is it's like an area plan or a master plan. It's very commonly done throughout communities. What we hope to do is introduce some more certainty for the development community. So when they come to the city, rather than just saying it's rural residential and what do you think we want to have, it allows them to say, yes, this is what the community wants to see here, and they realize there's maybe some certainty in moving forward with an application. Of course, better efficient land use, and again, better lifestyle. This just gives you an idea of this particular chart. The general plan elements at the top. After that would be the village plans and rezoning, planned area developments, and everything else would follow as they do now. I want to make a final remark. There are no changes to the land use map other than the specific general plan major amendments that are coming before you tonight. So we haven't done any kind of changes at all in that map. We have made a few clarifications from the land use, just adding a little mixed use as appropriate in some of the designations. That's what I have for you tonight. It is just a public hearing, and we don't need any action.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your report, and especially thank you for the CD that was included in our package. While it took a long time to get through it because it was so comprehensive, it was really encouraging to see how much how well our city is maturing, and really appreciate your work. The part where you had the goals and the policies, I think that's a perfect opportunity for this council to integrate our vision into the plan and really come up with something special. So excellent, excellent work. Anybody else have a comment?
To the chair. Yeah, I'd like to compliment your group or their community development. The plan I think is excellent, and I appreciate the community outreach you've done to get people's input. It's very good.
Thank you. This doesn't require any action, but it does require a call to the public. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak on this item? If so, please step forward. Seeing none, I close the call to the public, and I once again thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Okay, item number
19.
19. Thank you.
Discussion and consideration on GPA 0841, Lake Pleasant 5000, a major general plan amendment to the City of Surprise 2020 general plan pertaining to property generally located north of SR 74 and bounded by 187th Avenue and 211th Avenue, and consisting of approximately 4,900 acres, changing the land use from rural residential to various land uses which match approved Maricopa County plan.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. David Neal with the Planning and Zoning Department. This is the General Plan Amendment 08041 for Lake Pleasant 5000. As you can see from our aerial, the project itself is located far to the northern planning area in Maricopa County. The nearest city boundary is shown on this map. It's the newly annexed Grand Vista project, approximately 2 to 3 miles south of this one. And the project itself is surrounded by state lands on all sides. The transportation from this project would be funneled through 211th Avenue and 187th Avenue. They're not on this map. They haven't been classified yet. And use SR 74 to go through east to Phoenix and south to the rest of Surprise. The project is proposing a change from rural residential, which is the current land use, to a mix of suburban residential, low-density residential, medium high-density residential, open space, and mixed use. The development is providing the city 44% dedicated open space in this plan, as well as the remaining development because of terrain and the design criteria that they're using in the county plan. The overall density is approximately 1.7 dwelling units per acre. This proposal is also including a text amendment to expand our current descriptions of land uses to ensure that the cluster product of housing that they want in this development is allowed in these densities. That concludes my presentation, and the applicant and myself are available for questions.
Thank you, Council. Mr. Johnson?
Are we still including the open space and parks and all that stuff in the calculations for densities?
Mayor and Council, the open space is calculated in that 1.7 dwelling units per acre density.
I don't know if it was while I was on this council, but I had asked that we start trying to represent the densities as a true, what are the densities taking into account the open space, or not taking into account open space and parks and stuff like that. I don't know if it's possible, but it's because I think that tends to be a little misleading. Myself personally, but anyway, so that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? My comment would be that recently we talked about doing cost analysis on some of these projects, and I think that there was consensus that the council wanted to have that be part of our future, and this is just an opportunity to bring that up again. So thank you very much. Any further discussion?
I just had one more thing. We have very few, I'm just torn a little bit. We have very few rural residential areas in our city remaining. We keep giving them all to these mixed uses and mixture of low and high densities, and I just that's a place up north that I feel is a good use for 0 to 1 dwelling units per acre. So I just have a concern. It's going to have to really impress me for me to want to change this. Thank you.
Mayor and Council, if I may, the planning area in Surprise, with this project approved, would still have 48% of the planning area as rural residential.
Thank you.
Mr. Alton. I had an opportunity to meet with the developer as well as their legal representation some time ago. And I was pretty amazed at the project, what their conceptual design was, what they would like to bring in, which I believe it even included a resort and a golf course. And Surprise, I think we might be looking for one of those to happen at some time in the future. And I believe that it was going to be open to the public. Is that still true?
I'll have the applicant address that.
Okay. Good job. That would be yes.
Mayor, Council, if you didn't hear the answer is yes.
Yeah, but I just wanted to go on record as saying I really like the concept. However, I'm a little bit bothered by the amount of state land in between our regular land, our city land, that's already been annexed into the city versus where this location is. And I'm also concerned as to where the water is coming from.
Mayor and Council, if I may just remind you, this is the general plan amendment. So we're talking in terms of just general land uses. We aren't talking about what specifically is being offered by the property at this point in time. Therefore, even what's being suggested by the applicant may not be what comes to fruition.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other discussion? Okay, I open this to the public. If there's anybody from the public that would like to speak on this item, please step forward. Seeing no one, I close the call to the public, and that concludes the report. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item number 20.
Item 20, consideration and action on the first reading of ordinance number 0830, Planned Area Development Sierra Verde, Parcel 8, PADA 08-44, consisting of changing the existing land use from medium-high density residential to mixed use, consisting of approximately 17.48 acres located on the southwest corner of Greenway Road and Litchfield Road.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, Council, Mr. Bailey, and welcome, Mr. Oliver. This is a presentation for a planned area development amendment to Sierra Verde Parcel 8. The subject site is located on the southwest corner of Greenway Road and Litchfield Road in the Sierra Verde planned area development. The applicant is requesting tonight, because of market conditions that were approved on the last land use classification, which consisted of medium to high density residential, it is proposed to change the original destination back to a mixed use land use classification. This is the current land use as shown in the current amended PAD, and it's proposed to mixed use. In 2002, the mayor and council approved the original zoning with this mixed use land use classification, so it's actually reverting back to the original that was proposed a while ago. Staff does recommend this land use classification because we met with we had a community outreach meeting. We met with many of the neighbors that were fairly vocal on the project, and some concerns came up regarding access, traffic, some architecture, design, what things are going to look like. And there was also a recommendation from some of the residents that we look at almost like a green approach to the project for energy conservation. The applicant and staff met on that, and we did recommend the applicant to add performance standards in the document, which would require the project to develop at the time of site plan to include strong community scale design, pedestrian scale lighting, appropriate architecture to blend in with the community, and mixed use in planning really ties in a project compared to other typical destinations. It brings buildings together, it makes it walkable and more environmentally friendly. We are going to strongly encourage the applicant to look at environmental approaches and green approaches to the project as it moves forward. That's something where the city is moving towards. Furthermore, this does conclude my presentation, and the applicant does wish to add to the presentation. Mr. Gilbert? Oh, you don't? Okay, all right. So
that makes us, we really like this project.
I think I covered it. This is the first time where I covered everything, so I think that's excellent.
Any discussion, council? Mr. Oliver?
Yes, I would point out this is in District 5, not in District 1. We verified that. And on the motion, this is just a technical clarification. It should be, I move to approve the first reading of ordinance 08-30 and move the item to a second reading.
Very good. Thank you. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the first reading of ordinance 08-30 and move the item to a second reading.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. This item does require a call to the public. If there's anybody from the public who would like to speak, please step forward. Seeing no one, I close the call to the public. Any further discussion? Hearing none, please cast your vote.
Unanimous yes vote.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number, thank you.
I'll continue to be brief.
Item number 21.
21. Consideration and action on the first reading of ordinance 0829, approving a rezone RZ 07432 for Grand Avenue and Deer Valley Road, consisting of changing the zoning on a parcel from C2 Community Commercial and R1 43 Single Family Residential to C2 Community Commercial, generally located northwest of the intersection of Grand Avenue and Deer Valley Road.
Can you beat that?
I'll try.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. My name is Bart Wingard. I'm a planner with the City of Surprise. Tonight I bring before you rezone RZ 07432, Grand Avenue and Deer Valley Road. The project is located along Grand Avenue near the intersection of Grand and the 303. And as you can see here, it is surrounded by the Asante project on the north and Aston Ranch and Burke properties to the west. This shows the existing zoning in through here, and you'll notice that this is one property, 1.5 acres, and most of the property is existing C2. But there's a portion of the property, you'll see the little triangular area near the western corner that is zoned R143. And the request is to change the entire parcel to a C2 zoning. The purpose is to eventually be a mini storage facility, which I have a site plan of right here. Again, zoomed in a little bit more to show the existing zoning and what the proposed zoning will be. We did have a community outreach on April 14th, and no community did come to the meeting. And on June 3rd, this was brought before the Planning and Zoning Commission and was approved. And the applicant and I are here for any questions if you have any.
Thank you. Mr. Hall?
Yes, sir.
The access, is it there or is it going to be built? Is the access off Grand right now? A turn left and a...
Turn left into there? No, no. There is, they have permission from, or through the mayor, they have permission to have access in there, a right turn access, and are also, we are talking about access from the Burke property to the west. So we have 2 points. But tonight is just the rezone, and we will be coming back with the conditional use permit to entitle that, or to, yes, to address those issues.
Mr. Alton.
Yes, through your chair. Is there another storage facility that has been planned or is being planned or has been recently approved on Grand pretty close to this?
There are several storage units along Grand on this area, a couple existing and another one just to the north.
Is there one to the north that is just being planned and will
being planned?
Okay, and it has yet to come into P&Z for approval?
I believe so, yes. I would have to.
Do we have in a general plan or in any plan, do we have the amount of self-storage units that we want in a square mile?
Well, through the mayor, that was a question that the P&Z Commission did present to us, and we are now assembling a report on that to explain how these are going to be, where the existing facilities are and what the proposed ones will be. And we should be coming through with that shortly on that.
Okay. Without that information, how was the P&Z able to pass judgment on this project?
Well, because the P&Z was simply doing the rezone. They were not doing the site plan of a mini storage facility.
Mr. Bailey?
Just Mayor and Council, this is not an approval for the specific use. It's just the general zoning classification. So while ultimately I think there's the perception that it would be a storage facility, at this point in time we don't know that.
Okay. All right. Thank you for correcting me.
Any further discussion?
No.
No. This does require a call to public. Hereby open this to the public. If anybody would like to speak, please step forward. Seeing no one, a closed call to public. Any further discussion? Please cast your vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
We didn't make a motion yet, Mr. Mayor.
We didn't? Jeez Louise.
In a row, you guys.
I hadn't voted for it, though.
I move to approve moving ordinance 08-29 to a final reading.
Second. Now we can vote.
We have motion second. Please vote. Thank you, Mr. Longabaugh.
Unanimous yes vote?
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was pretty terrible.
Okay, we'll move on to number
That's your
22.
expense account.
You looked at me and I go, wait a minute, we have a motion yet.
Consideration and action on the first reading of ordinance number 0827, rezone RZ08010 for Grand Avenue and 193rd Avenue, consisting of changing the zoning of approximately 33 acres from R143 to C3 General Commercial, located on the southwest corner of Gordon Way and 191st Avenue.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Truitt and fellow commissioners. My name is Lance Farrell, and I will be presenting the rezone for Grand Avenue and 193rd. This gives you a bit of a perspective on exactly the location of this particular project, which is on the southwest corner of 191st and Gordon Way. I decided to use that location instead of 193rd and Grand, since it actually does not touch the particular parcel. To the north of the project is Asante North. This particular parcel is zoned currently as R143, which is 1 home per acre. At this time, it is also under the Luke contour lines for Auxiliary Field 1. And as you could see in your letter that was supplied by Luke Air Force Base, they do support the change of a residential use to a commercial use. A C3 zone was chosen for this particular area, feeling that it had great buffering for C2 to Grand Avenue, giving the opportunity for C3 for the employment use as the general plan states. This is a 33-acre parcel that, again, is under the Luke Air Force contour lines. Therefore, the applicant is requesting approval of a rezone for C3. On March 14th, there was a public outreach meeting that was held at Natterburg Elementary School. There were residents that did attend. However, they had no specific objections to the particular rezone of the project. They just had concerns when site plans came in that it would have low-level lighting so they could continue to have their dark skies, as well as an aesthetic architecture to the building that would more fit into the rural lifestyle. And we stated that that would be something that we would strongly encourage when the applicant did come in for that type of facility. That does conclude my presentation. The applicant and myself are here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you.
Through
Councilor
the
Mr.
chair.
Johnson.
C3 General Commercial would be able to have a storage facility, Richard. Another one along Grand Avenue.
Just an ordinance.
Anything else? Okay, this item does require a call to, well, let me have the motion in a second before I forget that.
I move.
Go ahead.
I move to approve moving ordinance 08-27 to a final reading.
Second. Motion, 2 seconds. Thank you very much. This does require a call to the public. If there's anybody from the public who would like to speak, please step forward. Do we have somebody?
Yes, we do. Bob Vakanovich.
We just can't get away from this perception. You know, I find this all completely flawed here because we all know we have 4 people here that have been on a planning and zoning board, 4 of you. When you make a pad change, you never make it a C3. You always make it C2. He has here, he stated that its C3 zone is a more intense use and may have businesses that operate with a higher noise level. Of course, because this is going to be a industrial park. And it's not clear that it's going to be an industrial park. For example, at Grand Avenue and Bell Road intersection, the Olive Garden Red Lobster corner is zone C2, and the corner with the U-Haul storage facility is zone 3. The reason it was zone C3, we changed the zoning. It was C2 to good planning. It was C2 zoning. They assured us they would put a U-Haul storage, self-contained storage in there, so we changed the zoning from C2 to C3. So then you go in here, and he says here, additional actions on this side would need to come to planning and commission for review and approval. Of course, but if it's already zone C3, you're all I can say, you're zoning this here for a industrial park. So as long as you guys understand that, you want it, fine. But the perception is still there. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
All the parcels around this are C2. Is that correct?
The parcels along Grand Avenue are C2. The salmon color to the south of the project is C2. The white location is actually unincorporated Maricopa County, so it has not been annexed into the city at this time.
Mr. Johnson.
Is this in the loop flight contours?
It is in the auxiliary 1 loop
Okay.
contours, yes, that is
Good,
correct.
Thank you.
Okay, hearing no further discussion, please cast your vote.
Unanimous yes vote.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is where we move to item number 23, consideration and action on items to be placed on future agendas and/or suggestions for workshops. Does anybody from council have an item? Mr.
I have
Johnson?
just 2 thoughts out there. One is I think it's a good time to bring this out, but I would like to eliminate all references where it says that it requires 2 signatures for council members. Obviously.
Are you requesting for that to come back to council as
Yes, if we could.
as an agenda item? Okay.
Yes.
That's so noted.
Also, we never touched on the Kim Davies at the budget. If she's under our budget and we instruct her to do things, I still think technically we ought to look at trying to change the municipal code to reflect that we can give her direction. That's just me personally. I know it may be a technicality, but oftentimes we get hammered on because of technicalities up here. So I think if she's under our budget and we're directing her and giving her directions, which I do every day, I think that that should somehow be able to be worded in our municipal code. Thank you.
Mayor and council, without objection, I'll work with Councilmember Johnson to bring that back to the council at a regularly scheduled meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't believe we have anything else, any further business to conduct, so this meeting's adjourned.
Awesome.
machines and high morale. They work